and welcome to the Know Something Required podcast, a podcast where we talk about nothing. And today is a special video, a special episode with your duo minus one Audrey Ember, Audrey sus as hell Ember, who cannot make it this week. But without further ado, here is your hostess with the mostest, Romina with the good hair, and of course, your dark lord of the interwebs, Roberto Blake. Welcome to the Know Something Required podcast, filmed in front of a live YouTube audience. Please like, subscribe, review, do all the things.
All of the things.
All the things.
Roberto, have you disclosed why you sound the way that you sound?
I'm
publicly?
sick. I'm sick.
What are you drinking there?
Tea.
What kind of tea?
I have no idea.
I have no idea what I'm drinking either. It's called Serendipity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's supposed to be like some relaxing thing. So it's probably got like chamomile, lemongrass, all that sort of stuff.
Gotcha. But yeah, no, Audrey is traveling, and good for her for that. I believe she's up in the Great North. So we'll discuss holding it down because we didn't want to go I think another week without an episode, just because last time I was traveling. So I mean, it's people are traveling.
Yeah, we're going from being a trio to a duo. So far I'm the consistent one. I'm the consistent one in the duo.
Well, it used to be me.
Hey, you know what? We all take turns here because we're busy. We're busy people.
Yeah, so busy that the audio episode's still not up.
Ooh, dang! You're really gonna throw her under the bus like that?
I said what I said.
She's not even here, dude.
I said what I said. I'd say it if she was here. You know that. She knows that. I'd say it if she was here. Yeah.
So we got a Get Better Man from Will in the chat.
Thank you, Will.
Peace.
Yeah, I'm feeling better than I was. I mean, General Grievous cough notwithstanding.
It is what it is.
Jedi scum. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He's actually not sick. This is just his impersonation of General Grievous.
No, I'm actually sick.
So, what do we got going on this week? What's happening in the world?
Speaking of General Grievous, it's like we got Star Wars Kenobi has dropped, and it's been 3 glorious episodes, and it's amazing.
Have you watched all 3?
Yes.
I've only watched the first one.
Oh.
Okay, but
How'd you like it?
You got to hear me out here on this. So last week was tough. So we had Stranger Things 4 drop.
Fair enough. And I know that you're a big fan.
That was 8 episodes.
Yep.
So I had to binge watch all of that, or else, everybody was going to spoil it.
Yeah. So no, I know you're a huge fan of that one.
And also Prehistoric Planet. Apple TV came out with Prehistoric Planet, which was
I'm a big fan of that.
So good. So I watched everything that was out then too. They decided to release an episode every single day last week. Which was an interesting way of doing it. Instead of doing every week, but then also not releasing everything at once. So you can't just binge watch it, right? You have to wait 24 hours to watch the
Well, you have to tune in, and that's good for their
No, I really like that
viewership, and it's good for people talking about it. It's
but it was good for pacing as well, because I didn't have to wait a whole week for another episode to come out, but also I didn't have to feel like I had to binge watch 12 hours of content. Right?
I do like weekly drops because it's one, it's just what I grew up with, but two, it's from a okay, it gives us a week to catch up, to see it, to go back, to watch stuff if we want to watch them all in sequence, all back to back, or multi-time viewing, or watch with friends and talk about it. And so I like weekly drops. That means also, again, you don't have the whole thing potentially spoiled all at once to make it not worth watching.
And that's really the main thing for me, is because I'm not usually a binge watcher. I mean, I do like to consume a lot of content when I'm into something. Just because if it's really good, then obviously I want to see what's happening next. But generally speaking, I grew up with a weekly serialized drops, and to me that makes sense. It also doesn't create this habit of needing to binge watch. It just seems more healthier. And it
by
also gives
far.
me time to process the content. So like with Stranger Things, like this season was a lot heavier in terms of like they covered a lot of stuff like mental health and just like dealing with a lot of things that are heavier topics and not so much like over the surface. And so it requires a little bit more in-depth analysis and a little bit more digestion, if you will. But you can't really get that when you're binge watching, you know? So I'm gonna have to like go back and like rewatch some of these moments to really like process exactly like what happened and like analyze like certain writing that they did. Because you forget it, like it doesn't matter how good you are at consuming, like you can't, like you have to take time in order to digest the stuff that you're consuming, you know, like doing the binge watch stuff. It just I feel like you can't really appreciate it as well, you know. Which I did really like with the Mandalorian, that they did the weekly drops, because I was able to process it a lot better. And it was so much more enjoyable to be able to talk about it and like look forward for a few days and like, you know, come up with friends and be like, oh my God, like, what do you think is going to happen? Like it gives time for these conversations to happen as opposed to like 8 hours, like just gone.
I feel like the exception to that is like the Book of Boba Fett. It might have been better if they just put it all there.
Why do you say that? I didn't watch it, so
I feel like it went. I think it like the Book of Boba Fett was too, for being such a short episode series, as a limited series. It was. I felt it was too much of a slow burn. I felt there was too much writing on bringing back an original trilogy character at all to stall out, like, or to drag things out. I feel like just here it is, here's what it is, like for that one, because it was a limited run series. It was a self-contained-ish story because it still ties directly to like Mando and all that stuff. So since it's almost like a mid or half season kind of drop or spinoff drop, I feel like that should have just probably just you'd give it to us all straight.
Yeah, I get that. When it's short like that, it definitely makes a lot more sense. Like if it's only 3 episodes, 4 episodes, you know, things like that, like the Get Back, the Peter Jackson Beatles miniseries. I mean, like that's super long. That's like an exception, but it's only like a few episodes, so it's like a handful of
if it's a limited run series.
Yeah,
if it's a limited run series and it's less than like 8 episodes, just give it to us. Like,
yeah. But fortunate. I feel very fortunate that I'm able to watch all of these really cool shows that are coming out and content that's just like Apple TV is just killing it in terms of like making content, like incredible stuff between like Apple Foundation and Ted Lasso.
I love the Foundation.
And now Prehistoric Planet, like they're just like slamming it out of the park.
Prehistoric Planet is the kind of thing that, especially when I was a kid, I would have loved, and it would have been like, because I always watched that kind of stuff when I was a kid.
So Coded Photography in the chat wants to know, what's this about? So we are a podcast where we talk about cool stuff every week.
It's 3 friends. It's that you get to sit and watch like 3 friends.
We really are 3 friends. We're not making this up. But
one of Audrey's usually here.
She's traveling this week.
Yeah. So usually it's 3 friends. We get together and we talk about whatever's happening in the world, and we usually each pick a topic. But with Audrey gone, Romina and I decided to focus really on one kind of core topic, but we're also doing a little bit of just catch up. And we also wanted to do something much more lighthearted. So what we were talking about is we were talking about some shows. We were talking about how Disney Plus, has been doing their Star Wars shows. So that was Obi-Wan Kenobi. And then on top of that, we were talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi. We were talking about Prehistoric Planet on Disney Plus. We're talking about a little bit about Stranger Things. And we were talking about God, what was another show we were talking? There was another
Prehistoric Planet, Stranger Things, and Obi.
Yeah, that was it. So
yeah. No. I know that you're a regular here, Coded, but I took the opportunity in talking because we got a few people who came into the chat. Always a good opportunity to refresh people in what we talk about every week.
Yeah.
Because we do have there is a little bit of strategy to our
just a little bit
chaos.
Yeah, a little bit. It's not something we're taking hyper serious the way like we do in our other YouTube.
I mean, this is kind of like a good synopsis of what we do from Stinking the Chat. We get to eavesdrop on these nice people. That's
yeah, basically.
kind of like that's the simple way of putting it, but yeah.
Yeah, no, this is the thing that I get to do with some consistency that I also don't have to stress out about. It's the thing I've been most consistent about. This is the most consistent thing I've probably had going for me the entire pandemic, while also being the least stressful.
Yeah. And we know without a doubt that Audrey is not stressing out, because if she was, then
you want to talk about you're telling me saying I was throwing someone under the bus? My God.
For those of you who don't know, Audrey is 100% in charge of putting the audio tracks of this podcast on all the streaming platforms. So if it's delayed,
which it is, it's like 50 episodes behind.
Wow, 50 episodes. That's like half of the show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the audio episodes are delayed by 1 year. We
are a timely show, guys.
Yeah, with a 1 year delay on the audio. Yeah.
Yes, on the audio. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's for the time travelers. That's our main target audience is the time travelers. So they don't really care too much about.
Speaking of time, time is money, and that leads us to, I guess, the main topic of debate tonight and everything like that. So our good friend of the show, Elon Musk. Yeah, it's like friend of the show. It's like, hey, Elon, thanks for supporting us. Friend of the show, Elon Musk is embroiled in yet another internet controversy that I don't really personally feel should be a controversy. He sent out a letter to Tesla employees that was mostly targeted at leadership and management, and it revolves working from home. Now, those of you who are familiar with the program know that both me and Romina are big fans of remote work and working from home, but I feel like we've been championing this for a while, and now I feel that the people who are championing it have co-opted like what we felt was a movement toward true productivity and thoughtfulness, and also toward people who are very responsible. I mean, unfortunately, I have to say it like this. It's like, I feel like the work from home and remote work movement has been co-opted by entitled and lazy people, not those of us who have been doing it for 10 years that are obviously not that.
So you think that it's been co-opted by lazy people?
Yes. Like, but
what makes you say that? Where are the facts here?
Well, here's the thing. A lot of people, like, I feel like if you want to do remote work and work from home, there have always been companies and careers for the last 10, 15 years where that is more viable, more likely, and where it's also appropriate to say, well, why can't I do that or this and that? But a lot of opportunities and things that provide for that. A lot of people got that situation or opportunity as a result exclusively of the pandemic. And now they don't want to go back now that they have the ability to be vaccinated. They've
got a taste for the dark side.
Well, but the thing is, they're now acting like it's so torturous to do the thing that they were doing before the pandemic, and forgetting that the only reason that they've been doing it at this point was because of the pandemic. And the thing is, if they want to keep doing it and their current job and their current employer says, no, that's not what we're going to do as a company, and that's not what is appropriate for us to do as a company, and that's not how we want to move forward in a post-pandemic world, I feel like, okay, if you think you're qualified and capable, you should have no problem finding just as good of a job or a career that fits your new lifestyle requirements. I don't think it is appropriate to try to dictate to a company that they should make this allowance for work from home beyond this 2-year period. Because by the way, it hasn't worked out for every company. It's not appropriate to every business model. It hasn't even worked out for all the employees. And with regard specifically to the Tesla thing, with the Tesla thing, Elon's thing wasn't just no more work from home, no more remote work. It was, hey, if you are in charge of a group of people and are factory workers at a specific location, one, you can't work from a different location while managing those people, and they need to see you there, and they need to understand that they can hold their leadership teams accountable. So it's weird to me that you have all these people scream about the need for accountability. People scream about the working class. The factory workers don't get to work from home. So why is it so evil or oppressive that their white collar counterparts who at Tesla have a median salary across the company of over $100,000, $120,000 is the median salary of a Tesla employee. And that's including blue collar and white collar. So if I only count their white collar counterparts, the work from home people, then the median salary is definitely over 6 figures. It's like, why is it so oppressive, totalitarian, or authoritative, or all of a sudden to insist that the white collar workers have to show up in person and have accountability to their blue collar counterparts and stand shoulder to shoulder with them, and that, hey, you might have to look in the eye the people that you make decisions for. What's so terrible about that?
I think there's also a misconception of what he was talking about. Like, a lot of people, I think, don't understand that he was talking about execs specifically, which I think
he was talking about, this leadership. It was out just leadership.
Yeah. Which is like, it makes it a little bit more difficult. It makes it a little bit more difficult to manage a team when your team physically works in the same location day in and day out every week, but then you don't. That's a little bit contrived, but
yeah. And then where's the accountability when you're making these judgment calls for people on the ground and on the floor, and you're not there, and then you're gonna like make those judgment calls from behind a screen? I mean, I guess you could, but again, like, where's the accountability for you at that high level position? And again, you already are going to have a much easier job than these people. Why do you need to have that extra perk?
Right.
And then also it's like, again, like that so like
yeah. What was that? What were you gonna say?
Well,
or is that it?
Well, I mean, I want to hear what you have to say, but I do have one other point. I feel like the work from home movement has been co-opted by a lot of the same people that are pushing things like the anti-work movement. Because again, those of us who already are remote work. Workers and work from to. Sorry, yeah.
I'm back. You froze for a second. Yeah, you froze for a second.
Those of us who've already been working from home for a decade, we actually understand the upsides and downsides to work from home for us, and also for people we serve, whether that's employers, vendors, clients, customers. We understand there's upsides and downsides for it. So it's one of these things where now rookies to the experience. It's just like how I have the same issue in entrepreneurial circles. People who've been entrepreneurs for like all of the last 2 or 3 years of the pandemic are really loud and very opinionated and think that they and by the way, welcome new friends, but they're very loud. Rookie entrepreneurs, anything people think is toxic about the whole quote unquote like hustle and like that only comes from rookie entrepreneurs. That only comes from people who've been entrepreneurs and quit their job 2, 3, 5 years ago and everything like that. Those are the people who burn out hard. Those are the people who are like, oh, rise and grind, and then start crying about burnout and mental health and everything like that. You don't hear that. You don't hear nonsense and impractical things from people that have been doing something for 5 and 10 years. You hear it from people who've been doing it for 2 or 3 and think that they know better all of a sudden, or who are wannabes or aspiring or wish that they were. Those people are very loud, very vocal. Like me and Romina have been saying for years that you should find you can either become a freelancer, or you become self-employed, or you can find a company to work for that already has a global workforce and is already suited to this and wants that in their culture. I'm not a fan of everybody trying to reorganize the culture of the place that they work in to fit their personal agenda or their personal lifestyle, instead of just like, if you have the talent, go where you're treated best.
Yeah. When there's I think that there's a sorry, there's somebody talking very loud.
Really? You good?
Yeah, more than anything, it's just very distracting for me. So then I lose my train of thought. So I
hear you.
Yeah. I think this mic is good enough that it cancels it out.
You mean like how mine cancels out the ringing thing that my Mac Mini is doing?
Yeah, I mean, I can sort of hear it, but it just kind of sounds like room noise.
Ambient room noise, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like I hear
room
like
tone, yeah.
Yes, it is still my birthday. It's always still my birthday. It's my birthday month. It's my birthday year.
Always and forever.
Always and forever. I actually joked last week that I think I'm gonna take this down and I'm gonna send it to Audrey for her birthday.
Huh?
I told her that I'm just gonna send it to her so she can put it in the back of her room.
We'll just rotate it. We'll just
recycle. Share. Yeah. We'll just share it for many years to come. So I think we were talking about the newbies versus the hipsters. Essentially.
Well, like, yeah, the rookies versus the veterans. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's like a more professional way of putting it. In terms of the rookies, I feel I really mean it. I think that they just have gotten a taste for it. And they just don't know any better. I mean, it's kind of like new money and old money, right?
Oh, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't want to discourage people from encouraging remote work culture within their own companies or within the company that they work, or just in general. I don't want to discourage it, but also if there is a system that's in place and it works, it can be disruptive to just change that system when there isn't an infrastructure that's put into place to make that sustainable, to make that change.
Well, cybersecurity is one of the biggest issues that would have to be tackled to even allow this within a company for all people's sakes and purposes and everything like that. So there's that. And then the thing is, people, like, if you work from home, you don't have the backup and support of an IT department. You really want to go through that, like, because I can tell you it's not fun. It's like, okay, are you okay if you work from home? Are you okay at playing for higher stakes in terms of being fired? Because again, if something screws up while you're working from home, you have no backup, you have very little support, it's on you. And if it's on you, are you willing to take on more responsibility? Because that's the problem. People think that something is even in the debate between something being a privilege and a right, I go, it's actually like, it's a responsibility. If it's anything, if anything, it's a responsibility.
I mean, that's the difference between an employee and a business owner, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's how much risk they're willing to take on. You can either work full time and accept whatever it is that they pay you, or you take on all of the risk that your boss has taken on to run the business, right?
Right. And I feel more and more, and this is why I brought up things like anti-work and like this anti-capitalism stuff, and everyone wants the outcomes that are entrepreneurial, and they don't want to take on any of the entrepreneurial behavior that goes with it. Oh, I want equity in the company. I should be able to get profit sharing from the company. It's like, you weren't an investor in the company. Well, I'm investing in the company with my labor. It's like that's not the same thing as being invested and having the responsibilities of legal liability and risk. That's not the same thing as buying the equipment. That's not the
No,
same
you're
thing
not
as
invested in the company. You are invested in the paycheck that they give you.
exactly so. So it's like that is like, so that's a thing. Okay, so there's that, and it's like, and you didn't build this business. Oh, like, oh no, the employees built this business. It's like everyone likes to say that whenever they want to criticize entrepreneurs or rich people they don't like, they go, no, they didn't build that company, the employees built that company. It's like, sit down, sit down. Like, you don't know shit. Like no, the employees did not get together and did not sit there and did not come up with the business plan. They did not raise the capital. They did not come up with the MVP. Like sit down, sit down.
If you do want equity in a company, it's completely
Go
possible to
yeah,
do.
start a
You just have
culture.
to work for free.
Or work for a very low salary at a startup
Yep.
and take a lot of risk and know that the company you're working for might be out of business in a year or two or whatever, go belly up, and that, hey, you're also putting your reputation on the line if the company doesn't work out. That it's like you'll be associated with that flop potentially if you're a key employee. It's like you can, but that's the thing. So people who want a very comfortable, very safe life want the outcomes that come from risk takers, founders, pioneers, map makers, the people who get the arrows in the back. So wait, you want the buried treasure. You don't want the arrows in the back. Oh, I'm shocked. That's the problem that I have with some of these new things is that you have people who want to have employee security, employee levels of commitment, but want entrepreneur level outcomes and wonder why there's some big disparity between them, the worker, and the founder or CEO or the owners or the shareholders, the stakeholders. And the thing is also, by the way, your outcomes are different than the customers too. So like, it's like, you made a choice, like at some point in terms of like, and people say, no, like most people, like, what do you mean? Most people can't choose to not be an employee. It's like, it's not your parents' generation. It's the new world. You can choose to do a lot of things. You can get a skill set that aligns you to remote work. You can get a skill set that aligns you to having a higher probability of working from home. You can choose what skill sets you want, and college is not an excuse for not having them anymore. There's these almost unfathomable, unlimited possibilities and potential. It's not high barriers to entry for any of it anymore, hardly. And if you just say, well, I can't do that, or my circumstances, that's a you problem. That's like literally a you problem. And my issue with also the new people in the work from home movement is I don't want to discourage it either. And I don't want to discourage companies from embracing it. But I think what will discourage companies from embracing it is it being co-opted and misrepresented by people for whom work from home doesn't produce results for the company and doesn't produce good outcomes for the customers and the clients that make the company work, pay the salaries, pay the employees, pay the shareholders, keep the, like, it's like people who you have to deliver for customers. Every single one of us is a customer. So every single one of us, when we call in and we get bad customer service and everything like that, we're closer and closer to walking away from that relationship and the company loses money. If there's enough bad customer service for it to turn into bad publicity and bad press, then people who invest in stocks like you and me, we go, if that company keeps bleeding money and keeps having bad press and everything like that, I'm going to have to sell. And that's what we do. And that, like, those things don't work out. So it's, at the end of the day, customers have to be happy. And if a company figures out that their employees are really, really happy, but their customers are not, like a company can survive customers loving them and employees not loving them very, very easily. The opposite isn't true. You could have miserable employees, happy customers, and your company gets along fine. And the thing is, I'm not saying you have to have miserable employees to have happy customers. I'm saying that I don't like culturally where we're heading, where people are not understanding that the customer does come first, the consumer does come first, the people who have to be served come first, not you.
I'm curious to know, Trent in the chat said, I don't have a problem with remote work. It's just the entitlement that people have about it. I'm curious to know if he's talking about remote work people in general or the rookies that you're talking about.
I think it's probably more the rookies. Like, I mean, Trent can answer for himself, but I think it's that you have all these people who are now demanding that they be able to work from home. When again, it's not even a good idea for most people. If most people work from home, you and I know this. Okay, when you work from home, whether you're an entrepreneur, a contractor, an employee, when you work from home, first thing that you're going to notice is your friends and family don't respect you the same way, and that a lot of them, not everybody, but a lot of people, your friends and family are going to respect you the right way, and they're going to think that you can sit there because you're working from home, that you're available even though you're supposed to be working. They're going to try to infringe on your time more. They're going to respect you less. They're not going to honor your boundaries. You're also going to have to figure out carving out a focused area and space where you can actually get work done and not feel distracted. You have like no built-in accountability anymore. And you also have this anxiety of issues like, oh crap, I'm having internet connection problems. Oh crap, I'm having this. Oh, I can't, how do I get IT help? It becomes this thing where you have these added complications. And then also, by the way, it means you no longer have any separation. There's no separation and there's no physical boundary that exists between home problems and work problems. They now sit in the same room together. Have fun with that.
That's the worst. That's the worst part, right? Because it's, even after years of doing it, it's still something that comes up. It's still something that comes up, and it's a challenge to have to kind of, I guess, like there's like this mental barrier that you have to set up in order to really, strengthen your walls of resistance in terms of like dealing with interruptions when there shouldn't be interruptions, right? Like there's a very clear divide, like when you leave the house, if you live with other people, when you leave the house, you're like, hey, I'm peacing out, I'm going to work, right? And if you don't hear from that person for 8 hours, you know that they're working, you know that they're, behind the cashier, they're doing whatever they got to do, they're at their cubicle, whatever. You know that they can't answer the phone, you know that they're busy, you know that they're unattainable during that period of time, right?
Yeah.
But that same level, that those same boundaries do not exist when you can see the other person in the other room. And you're just like, oh, they're just on their computer, like I can go like pop in for a second. It's like, no, that's not how it works. I mean, it's just like me right now, right? Like whenever I do my podcast, I try to have complete silence, because any like little noise, anything that like any conversation
you want it
that's
to be
being
better
had,
you want it to be better for the audience, and you want it to be better for me and Audrey. Yeah,
it distracts me. It's already distracting enough that I'm like trying to read the chat, right? Like that's distracting enough. Where sometimes like it really does take a lot of brain power in order to refocus anytime that you get distracted. Because that's what happens every time. Anytime that I'm reading what's in the chat, I have to like reprocess whatever somebody else like you or Audrey said, right?
Yeah.
In order to continue the flow of the conversation.
The average person isn't going to have a separate.
No, the average person is not going to be able to deal with that.
And they're not going to have a separate home office space that they're going to be able to be quiet and have a limited amount of distractions. They just do not have the resources for that. And it's not some like, I mean, excuse me. There are things that make work from home like great and wonderful, but it's also not necessarily good for your productivity in general. And I mean, I know all the arguments and I understand them, believe me. And people are like, well, if I work from home, then I can like work and spend time with my kids and do this. And then it offsets my childcare costs. It's like, okay, that's great for you. That's great for you. When you're doing that's great for you. When you're doing a meeting though, and your rugrats are running around in the background or crying or screaming and everything like that, you're being a distraction and a disservice to the people that you're supervising or managing, or the people above or below you, or the people that work alongside you that are on that Zoom call and everything like that. That's not great for them. That's not great for them. When you have to deal with a client and then your kid starts screaming or hollering or wants to run in the room or wants your attention, everything like that, that's not good for the company. That's not good for the client. That doesn't respect their time and space, that you are not 100% focused and committed to your. So like, people are advocating and fighting for, it's like, I want the right to have the ability to be in an environment where I absolutely am likely to be less committed to focusing on the task at hand, because it works out really, 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 really well for me. And they're like, well, if you as my employer don't want to give me that and everything, then you're just evil. And that's like, that makes no sense. It's like, so wait. You're asking me to give you the option to be as unproductive as possible, as distracted as possible, to have as little accountability as possible. And you want me to facilitate that. And you want me to be okay with that. Yes, you understand. Of course. Yes, you're on this. We're on the same page. It's like, it's a terrible idea. There are upsides to it, by the way, for some companies, for some business models, for some structures, because you can say, oh, well, you can have the best talent that works from anywhere. It's like, that only makes sense for people that are in the top 10% of ability in very specialized fields that have very few people and are highly competitive. That is not the majority of people. They're having to advocate for work from home, because people who can play at that level have their choice of how they work it already. Those people who can play at that level can pick and choose the outcomes they want already. They're not having to fight.
Yeah.
They're being fought over and offered whatever circumstances they want. The people who would have to fight for this or say, I want this, it's like you're already not necessarily operating at such a level to where you're a talent that's being fought over and courted. You don't have 5 other offers lined up right now.
Again, I don't want to discourage anybody from not working from home, because I'm like, that's the opposite of everything that I do. Sure. I want to encourage people to explore other ways of earning revenue and making.
I'm Mr. Go be a content creator and be a creative entrepreneur over here. I'm devil's advocating my own thing. I'm like,
and I think that there's something to say there in terms of like why we are talking about what we're talking about here, that it's not that we are anti-remote, but we're anti-remote for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. And again, we've actually done it. A lot of people who are in the conversation of talking about it, it's like they haven't done it, or they are new to it and have only done it for the pandemic. Which means me and Romina have done it for literally 4 or 5 times longer than them.
And we've been able to go through all of the steps to be able to learn how to organize ourselves.
And make it healthy and make it like something that you can do long-term, productive, healthy. And we've done it in a variety of situations and circumstances.
Yeah, it's not something that happens overnight, you know. I mean, like the stories of like, hey, like my productivity shot up, and it's like,
that's the rarest outcome there is in the entire thing.
That happens for like the first week or two, and then afterwards, when you have other external elements that influence your everyday life, like you got the kids. Like, what if your kid is sick? Have you ever been with a sick kid for 2 or 3 weeks?
Your odds of burning out become increasingly higher if you work from home.
Yeah. It's definitely not for everybody. But again, don't want to discourage people. There are ways to develop the skills in order to learn how to deal with all of these things. But the problems that Roberto and I have brought up are real problems that can hinder your productivity and your efficiency.
Do you know, I've known content creators who they left their full-time job. They went to being a full-time content creator. They went to work from home, and then immediately they started struggling to be as productive because they thought what would happen is, okay, I make more money than I make for the 9-to-5 job now. I'm a content creator now. I can leave. I've got this. I've got money saved up, blah, blah, blah. and I'm going to have all this energy and all this creativity and stuff like that. I'm not going to have the mental and physical drain of the job anymore. And at first, like for like a month or two, they're like really good and they're like, yeah, and they like get it. And then what happens is they realize a couple of things. One, they realize that, oh, I really miss having two sources of income more than I miss, like, okay, I miss the two sources of income and having this bigger number hit the bank account than I like having the extra sleep or the extra time or whatever. They also realize now that I don't have the pressure and the guardrails, I'm taking more time than I need to do everything, and I'm trying to make it perfect, and I'm getting in my head about it. It's like, and so the thing is, they have more time, and somehow they end up uploading less, or they end up making less quality content because they thought that they having all this energy. Like I know somebody who quarter million subscribers. I kept telling them, give it another 6 months before you even think about quitting your job. Right? They quit their job. They think that the content's automatically going to get better being a full-time content creator. It doesn't. They start alienating the audience. They get less views. They have all these other problems coming. They thought that all of a sudden, being full-time, they were going to start attracting all these brands and everything. That didn't happen for them. They thought, oh, I'm going to be traveling and going to all these events. They didn't get the invites they wanted. They didn't make the connects they wanted, all these things. And then they started getting in their head about it. And then it kept making the problems worse and worse and worse. And in their case, they left a job that would have let them be at that job basically for the rest of their life. And it was a mistake. And the reason I had told them, give it like 6 more months is because I did not feel they were emotionally, let alone financially, I did not feel they were emotionally, mentally ready and capable of being a full-time content creator. And I wanted them to stall as long as possible and see what would happen. And if they could even maintain a channel at the level that they were, because they got big and they got, I'm like, can you maintain that? You haven't been able to prove you can sustain the thing that you've built. Just because you built something really cool that's making a lot of money, you haven't proven that you can make that sustainable for a very, very long time. You're going to walk away from something you've been doing for a decade for something that you haven't been able to make viable for more than a year. Prove that this could be viable for more than 2 years before deciding to go all in on it. And they didn't listen. And again, they were turned out to not be, in fact, someone suited to working from home and not suited to working for themselves. It's like it was a disaster.
When you think about it, when they to keep with the same example of the content creator, when you think about it, if this person had a full-time job and they were working 40 hours a week, right?
Yep.
A full-time job. And then extra hours were put into growing their YouTube channel. Upon quitting to focus on the YouTube channel, now all of a sudden they have 40 hours in the week that were already planned for and systemized and scheduled for them, and are now empty slots of time that they have to figure out how to fill. And a lot of people do not have the infrastructure or do not have the know-how for organizing that. Which is why it is important to listen to people like us. I mean, to listen to people who have been doing it for years, because we do drop those nuggets of experience that can be helpful for when you do find yourself in that sort of situation, because the transition between going from working full time and having your schedule completely taken care of to running your own business or completely focusing your full time on your content creation, that transition is challenging, and not everybody can just handle that by themselves and do it effectively.
There are really 3 things people hire me for when it comes to the coaching side. There's only like 3 things. It's okay, how do I make more money so I can like be full-time? Or if I am full-time, how do I make more money so I can scale up and have a team and not burn out? Or it's how do I grow because I want this to be full time. So I need an audience that will help get all the other goals in place. But you know what the third and final thing is? The logistics and lifestyle side of like, okay, what is it like to actually go full time? What is it like? What do I have to put in place? What do I have to do to make this sustainable? Or hey, I'm full time and I'm struggling and I need to fix my operations and my logistics because this is not sustainable. This is not healthy. I hustled and struggled to get here. And now I'm still overwhelmed, even though everyone thinks I'm like, oh, I've got this numbers. I have people who have 1 million subscribers who come to me who say, I am struggling. I am barely keeping it together. I'm barely holding my life and my sanity together. I have people who've had to like 2 million subscribers that are like, oh, thank God for that, for your coaching call, Roberto, and your notes and everything like that. And me and my wife were able to reorder the channel and the YouTube thing. And I think it might have saved our marriage because the way I was going, it wasn't going to work. Like, it's like people have literally told me that if they did not fix their career as a content creator to have some much better work-life separation, that was going to destroy their family and their marriage. Like, and I've seen it happen with my own 2 eyes. That I like, people think that it's this this experience that it's not if they haven't gone through it already. Like, do you realize how many people with like being home all the time, like now with the pandemic coming to a close, like people are getting divorced because they had to experience what not having those 8 or 12, 10 hours a day of separation, like, as now that's it. I'm like, nope, had enough of you.
That sucks.
But we know people like who that's the case. Like,
right. Yeah. I mean, that's sad, but
it is. But I'm like, but it's also predictable.
Right. No, it is. But again, these are things that because they are predictable, they can be avoided, right?
Yeah. Remote work can be great. It's like, but I think people have a very, what's the phrase? Maybe naive is the word, or maybe they have a very, naive or a utopia or a fanciful or rose-colored glasses type view of it. It's like, hey, what about the other side of that? Like, it's not people being cynical or saying, oh, we don't want you doing what we're doing, or we want you to, be a wage slave or all this. Not like, no, it's like, it's that, do you even like have a situation? Do you have a skill set that's suited for remote work? Yes or no? Do you have a situation at home? Do you have a situation at home where work from home is actually going to make things better? Because have you considered that it can make things worse?
Right. It's important to weigh the pros and cons.
Yeah. Like,
to really analyze, because every individual is going to be different the way that it plays out. And again, it's a lot of investing time in research and seeing if this is right for you, and then also if you think that it is right for you, seeing what other people complain about. Because it is really nice to be able to take my laptop and go places and do stuff from wherever I want and be able to have like a nice office view, right? But there's a lot of stuff that comes with that as well that I've had to learn how to mitigate or work around. And there's things that people do complain about, that remote workers complain about. Find out what those things are and find out how other people have found solutions to them, because it's better to figure out how to avoid these problems in the first place than to have to learn it the hard way when there's so many other people who have had over a decade of experience, right, doing remote work. And
some people are coming up on, some veterans on it are coming up on 2 decades. So I mean, there's people who've been doing it for 15 or more years.
Like 15, I guess you're not. I guess you're not years. Wrong.
Because 2000s, because there were people who were doing remote work in the 2000s. A lot of people in IT.
I guess you're not wrong. I'm going to be one of those people soon.
Well, there you go. I'm getting close. I'm getting up there. But like,
yeah.
But
oh man, We're getting old.
Yeah, straight up. But like something I've been thinking of, something I mean, I give a primary example of like it's not the grass isn't always greener. Um, imagine like I mean, as a content creator, you might do like okay, you're you're single, blah blah blah. You're a content creator. You get into a relationship. You get a boyfriend, girlfriend, get married, whatever. And what if they decide that they don't want filming happening in the home and that they want like when you're at home, you're at home? Then that's oh, now all of a sudden you're somebody who needs a YouTube studio. And that's what happened to a lot of creators in their 30s is they went and they got somewhere else to be because it's like the people don't, you know, and you might notice like Casey Neistat does not film at home. He doesn't film at home. Social media and cameras are not allowed in their house.
Yeah.
Like that's a real thing.
That makes sense.
Yeah, there's a boundary there. There's a boundary there. I mean, there's a creator that I know that's massively successful, huge. They got divorced over their career and being a celebrity. Like kids, they like their wife didn't want the kids on social media. Didn't want to be on social media herself. That was always held against them. It's like, oh, where's the family? And like, da 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 da. Are you out there? Are you like a little F boy? What are you doing? Like, blah 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 blah. And they were like accused of all these things because it's like, but it's like, okay, well, but like she didn't marry him as a celebrity, you know. He wasn't a celebrity. He wasn't a celebrity on social media when she married him. And then so like, you know, he's doing his thing. He has his career, but it all had to be. You know, it became somewhat of an all or nothing proposition and that's how it is sometimes. Like, that's how it is sometimes but because when you don't have the right structure or boundaries and you're not in a situation where your home life may not be compatible with what you think your career is going to be. And I think people don't have an intentional outlook on what lifestyle design do I need to build out for myself. And then they catch on to all these things. I mean, it's not just the work from home thing. It's like, again, some people think they're going to be an entrepreneur and some people are not meant to. Some people will suck at being an entrepreneur. They'll be a C student as an entrepreneur, and they could have been an A student in the right company. They could have been more successful by finding a company that fits who they are than trying to fail to build a business that makes sense for who they are. Like, you just see what I'm saying? It's like they could have been a phenomenal employee under the right conditions instead of a mediocre entrepreneur. And you know, it is what it is. And it's like you have to figure out whether it's chasing, you know, working from home, entrepreneurship, thinking that equals freedom. It doesn't always give you what you want, and sometimes the price for it is higher than you think. I'll say this though, the good news is if you have enough talent, you'll be in a much better, and if you're real about your talent and your skill sets, you'll be in a much better position to be able to carve out the lifestyle that you want. You have more options based on how much ability you have. And you know, if you have a tremendous amount of value and ability and your skill set is aligned to it, you'll be able to find a good company that'll let you work from home if that's your heart's desire. I also just don't want people to keep thinking that it'll somehow be an answer to the majority of their problems when it realistically might not be.
Yeah. I think there's a lot to uncover there for each individual person. But like I said, I mean, there's a lot of research that's involved and kind of really thinking about it. And I think that a lot of people now have gotten the option to work from home that didn't previously. Like, they hadn't even considered that was a possibility. And now that they got to do the trial run, they want to keep the products, right? So I think that if that is a choice that you've made, I think that Will mentioned his mom at some point in the chat being one of those people. who got the op to work from home and then decided to stay once, the offices started to open up again. I think that having that option, if you have decided to do that, then do the research and learn how to find solutions to some of the biggest problems from remote workers. It's really important to face these problems head on.
Yeah. I think companies' problems now are not as much real problems as much as they're all PR and perception problems. Again, I have look, I think that what Elon said, a lot of people are giving him so much criticism, but they just like the criticism, I think, because he's the richest human and just because he's Elon and he's a little trolly and he's not some perfect neutered version of a progressive billionaire. He it's like, maybe if Elon tells them everything they want to hear and he paints his nails and everything, they'll leave him alone. But all he has to do is pretend to be a streamer. The thing is, I think that it sends a great message to the blue collar Tesla employees that your supervisors, your direct reports, and your leadership and your management is not going to sit there from behind a screen and tell you how to do your job on the floor. They're going to have to show up, and they're going to have to be on the floor, and they're going to have to look you in the eye, and they're going to have you in the office, and they're going to have to see you in the break room, and they're going to have to, and the people that are making decisions that affect and impact your career are going to have to be at the facility that you work at. That's a really good and strong message. And it's you can't call that a toxic workplace culture. It's the opposite of that, because it means that the white collar employees are accountable to the blue collar employees. There's nothing toxic about that. There's nothing cruel or unusual about that. That's not unreasonable at all.
I think if it makes more sense, I think one of the things that have come up is where's the data for that? Is it more productive? Is it more efficient for the company? Is it better for them to do that?
Again, even if it's not because not everything is productivity. Productivity is a good benchmark, but it's not the only one. Do you think if you're a blue collar Tesla factory worker on the line, do you have more resentment or less resentment if the white collar employees have to show up just like you do? Because again, it's creating.
Yeah.
Because it creates class.
Right.
It creates a class divide if so they don't have to, I'm on the line and they get to make decisions about me on the line and they aren't here. They're making and they haven't even seen the factory in 2 months and they're going to make a decision and they're going to tell me there's a resentment thing, and resentment definitely breeds inefficiency, insubordination, turnover, a lack of activity, and so on and so forth. The other thing is, the more by saying, hey, if you don't like it, it's okay, work at another company, you weed out rebellion, which is actually very good for a cohesive work environment, because you're saying people who are mission driven and people who care about the mission more than about collecting as many perks as possible will be the people that work here. And if you're a high enough profile company where people are literally beating down your doors, where you have 500,000 applicants with only 2,000 job slots, then you get to pick and choose. And the thing is, again, I think it's appropriate. If you have the juice, don't let the employees dictate the culture. If you have the juice and you have a mission, be a mission-driven leader. And a mission-driven leader isn't interested in democracy. A mission-driven, visionary leader is a leader. They listen, they observe, and everything like that, but they don't let themselves be dictated to by anything but the mission and the mission's parameters. And the thing is, you can make accommodations along the way from that. You don't have to be a brute per se. There is a such thing within, people will say, well, the benevolent dictator, but I think it's more accurate to say it's closer to Aristotle's philosopher king. It's closer to Aristotle's philosopher king. It's that you're setting out and outlining principles. And the thing is, the people that you're going to work with have to exist within what those principles allow for, and they're aligned to them or they're not. You can't work with and you cannot lead people that don't want to be led. You can't lead people that don't want to be led.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to have people who are contentious, people who like, no, I mean, I hate to say it, and I know people want to agree with me. They go, oh, anti-union, anti-union, anti-union. You cannot lead people that want to organize a mutiny or want to organize a subsection of the of the unit and demand like autonomy past the point that you've already allowed for within the mission. That because then at that point you're not leading them anymore. If people want to be in a place where they're not led and they want everyone to be egalitarian and they want a flat structure and they don't want any hierarchies, they don't need to work for you. They need to work somewhere else.
Right.
People, like, you cannot lead people that don't want to be led.
Yeah.
So if someone doesn't like the way the company is being led, then the thing that they should do instead of trying to change the company is, I frankly feel that they should leave and go to a company that shares their values or build a company that shares their values.
Yeah.
Like there was a point where I was not a good fit for my leadership anymore. And the thing is, we got to a fire me or I quit place and everything like that. And it worked. It was really good for me. They had a problem with never being able ever again in a decade to acquire someone of my talent. And I don't say that arrogantly. I mean, literally, I've shown you the back end of that, but so that was their problem in terms of, but the thing is, I wasn't necessarily insisting on reordering the culture of the company to fit myself. I was actually the one, if anything, aligned to data and saying, well, here's what the data is saying. And it was largely, there was a contrived reason to let me go that you already know about. But my point is that I'm fine with that. And it actually is the best thing that ever happened to me. But it's because like they weren't someone that could lead me. Because the thing is, it's not that I'm opposed to being led. You actually have to be competent and capable, or you're not going to be a leader that I will follow. Right. So they weren't. And so when that's the case, then that's what it is. That's what it is. So you can't, if you aren't someone and you don't feel, or if you don't feel your leaders are competent, capable, and that the culture that they have created within the company is suited to who you are, you shouldn't be there. You should just find somewhere else to get a paycheck from. Like, I'm dead serious, because you will not be happy. They will not be happy. And the outcomes you produce won't be good for the customers or clients. It's like no one is served by that. Yeah.
That is literally what I've always done. Yeah. I'm just like, oh, you guys are not the people I thought you were, or you guys are not cool anymore. Bye.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really that simple, because of the fact that fortunate enough to have access to the internet and access to a plethora of companies and brands who can align with my culture and my vision and the kinds of projects that I want to be working on, right?
Yeah.
So because I have access to that, I can just exit any company that just doesn't align with those values anymore. Because it's a lot more feasible for me to do that than it is for me to try to change the culture of an entire company that's been around for more than 6 months.
Yeah. You know? And people are like, oh, well, then organize and negotiate and do all this. It's like,
so why?
Why? That's a lot of energy and effort than to like, just.
Nah, thanks.
Like, no, it's like.
I think what it is that like, I think I just don't. Like, I just don't see what the point of that is. Is it like, what is it for? To like lay the path for those who follow after me? Like,
if I want to do that, I'll build a damn company.
Right, exactly. And that's really what I'm after as well, right? Because I know that that I can make a really big impact doing it that way, but also because I think that there's enough of like the fact that I would even leave, right, is enough
Yeah.
of a statement for them to reassess if they want, right?
Facts.
So I think that makes a bigger impact than me staying at a place that I'm unhappy with, making or creating work that the employers or the colleagues are unhappy with, and then
Within a
having
year
to
of me leaving,
right,
like a third of the employees left.
right, because you paved the path for them.
I don't know about that as much as that like the absence of, because again, what the thing that I was responsible
Makes
for.
it more difficult to do your job when you don't
Well,
have the right team, when you don't have the right resources, and when you don't have the
well,
right
that's
team.
actually what happened. Was
Yeah.
like my absence was important in the beginning of the unraveling of a lot of different circumstances over there, because
Mm.
after I left, um Google changed their advertising policy and changed their AdWords system a few months after I left, and that meant that everything and all the systems that I built, they had no one who was capable of adapting in real time, because they barely understood the things that I knew and that I put together, and they became too reliant on that, and they coasted, and they thought that they were going to be able to coast until they could get somebody, or they thought that I was more replaceable than I was. They assessed that improperly. The thing is, not if you want options, and if you want people to rue the day, or if you want bargaining power, your bargaining power is not going to be found in other dissatisfied employees. Your bargaining power will always be strongest in your own abilities and your own experiences and your own expertise, and making yourself indispensable, highly qualified, and unique. If you do those things, you will have bargaining power, you will have leverage. And whether people want to acknowledge it or not is their problem. You will not have nearly as much power by gathering together with a collective of disgruntled and dissatisfied employees that are largely disposable, that do not have the leverage to literally just go where they are treated best. That is like the worst strategy. That is the worst strategy for having a better individual life outcome. And if people say, oh, well, that's selfish, or this, it's like, you're supposed to be prioritizing yourself and your family. You're not supposed to be thinking about taking on the company, taking on the world, being part of some like revolution. It's like, I really feel like, okay, it's like, and then if people say, oh, well, if people believe that, people always use history and say, oh, if people believe that, then we'd never have this, we never have that. It's like, that's not today. That, first of all, it's not actually true. And then secondly, that's not today, and that's not reality. That's not the reality of the 21st century.
Mm.
In the 21st century, at least in America, it's like, revolutions are over, honey. You don't need them.
Yeah. Not to mention,
results.
Not to mention, and I say this in the most sympathetic and nicest way possible. Most people are expendable.
Yeah. No, so think about it. Throughout human history,
Mm.
there are only so many people that actually matter to produce the ability for you to have the life that you have today.
Yeah.
Like, I
And
can
I want to clarify that I'm talking specifically about work, right? People, I'm not saying that people in general are expendable, but I'm saying that an individual company,
in the totality of human endeavor, in the totality of human endeavor, people are. In the totality of human endeavor, people are. And if that's been proven, that's just facts. That's just facts. It's like, you are, and until you're proven you're not. You are until you're proven you're not. It's just not nice to say. It's a utilitarian view, but it's accurate to reality. And it's accurate to, and by reality, I mean measurable, verifiable, observable facts.
Yeah.
Like, that's how I roll.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, yes, you have intrinsic human value and a soul and all that. Yeah, fine, sure. But like, so what? Like, yeah. It's okay, fine, but so what?
Yeah, so do I.
But like, I'm saying, like, for anybody who needs a result, I'm saying for anyone who needs a result, anyone who needs an outcome, who needs an outcome,
Yeah.
Anyone who needs an outcome, because they're like, no, everyone wants to pull the egalitarian card and thinks that everyone is just as valid or valuable as everyone else. It's like, not when I need a result. You're not as useful to me. Like, you can be, okay, you're an artist, you're this, you're a literary arts major. Cool. So all the toilets in this building are completely backed up, and we all just had Taco Bell. The only person useful to us right now is a plumber. Everybody else is worthless. Everybody else is disposable at this point. We all just had Taco Bell, and there are no toilets that are working. The only person with any value to any of us is a plumber. That's just facts.
Facts.
That's just facts. It's like, okay, you're having an HVAC issue. No one is equally useful to you at that point. Just the person who can fix the air conditioning unit, just the person who knows how to put in the Freon, that's the only person that matters. It's like, when you need a result, all the egalitarianism, all the rhetoric, when you need something done, all that nonsense goes out the window, and you realize you don't value people equally. You never did. You never will. It's that, what can this person provide to me at this moment that I need it, is what it determines their value and their worth to you. Is what value you can exchange for them with them right now is what will matter to you. And that's how we are. That's just how humans are. There's nothing wrong with that. We just keep trying to subvert our nature and say these things that make us seem noble or virtuous or more kind or all these things. And I get that and everything. And who doesn't want to look like the good guy or the white knight? But at the end of the day, it's selling a scam. It's selling utopia. It's selling nonsense. It's selling a fairy tale. The truth is, you have to actually be useful to people. You have to be able to provide them some value. You have to be able to produce results for them. You have to be in a position to make people's lives better. You have to be able to be in a position to say, here is the thing that I can do that improves your circumstances and situation. Here's the thing that I have to offer that is essential and necessary to your life. Here's the thing that I have to offer that is desirable to you. And if you can't do that, then you have to accept that people reject you, or that people don't value the same way as someone who does offer it.
Facts. I have a question that is not related to this. Why is your MacBook humming?
It's an issue called coil whine. I think it's some type of electrical issue.
Which MacBook is this?
It's not a MacBook. It's a Mac Mini.
Oh, I thought you said it was a MacBook. Okay.
No, it's a desktop Mac Mini.
Got it.
Theoretically, if I plug all of the
which model?
The M1 model.
What?
Yeah.
That's wild.
I got it last year. I got it in like October, November. So it's like, yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah. Is that? I mean, can you get that?
I mean, I can get it. Like, I have Apple Care and I have Best Buy and I have Apple Care and I have that Best Buy membership. But like, I think that I don't know that they'll consider it a real issue, or they'll consider it a superficial issue, but we'll see. And we'll see if they can do anything about it.
It is if you roll up in there and say it's giving you migraines.
That's a good point. But in the meantime, what I can do is, if I want, as long as I feel like I have all the same things on my laptop, the good news is the way that I rigged this with my CalDigit hub, and the way that even these monitors work, is that everything for this setup that I have comes down to what's in the Mac Mini. Is I have 2 USB-C cables going into the Mac Mini and 1 HDMI. And so if I literally take those same things, I can plug that directly into my MacBook Pro, my 16-inch MacBook Pro, turn it into always on clamshell mode, hook it up to Bluetooth to this same keyboard and this same mouse, and then literally everything should more or less be the same. Everything should literally work. I just have to make sure I have all the same stuff installed and all the same files and settings, but like that should do it.
Right on. Curious.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we've been going for an hour, over an hour now. Do you have any last words?
I mean, the main thing is, look, at the end of the day, you have to know what you have to have some idea of what's right for you, and and what I don't think is right for people. Again, I think if you don't feel you're at a company or a job that treats you right, treats you fairly, pays you well, you should leave. And you should put yourself in the best position to leave. That's why I try to teach people. And that's not always leave and start a business. Sometimes it's leave and get a better job. But that sometimes is, well, you have to have more skills than you have now. You have to have a plan for it. I've done a lot of videos and I plan to do more teaching people how to leave their job and have a career in creativity, whether they have a degree or not. And the reason I've done that is because, again, I think that it's just something that's not taught. I mean, you don't leave high school or college usually knowing how to get a job in the first place, let alone how to get any clients on your own if you wanted to do something other than a job. That's a level of supplemental education that's just not provided. So I'm giving it away for free. So that's something. And I've been doing that for years now. And it's because I've lived through it. And I think it's more practical to go where you're treated best than to always. I think what I believe is, I believe we live in a culture and an era that disingenuously tries to get people to change systems that they really don't need to or can't, doesn't have them focus on systems that they could change, and doesn't, like, primary example is, like, again, if you really care about a lot of things, get involved in your local community. People aren't encouraged to change their systems at a local level. They don't get involved with their school board. They don't get involved with their city council. They don't get involved with local elections. They don't find uncontested seats in their county that are available, or like they don't do any of that nonsense. But then they want to be activist about everything, or they want to talk about things on a global or national level, or they want to start, like, think that they're starting movements or chapters or this thing or that thing. And it's like, you're literally in your own backyard. You could be making a difference. You don't do that. But then people don't even make a difference in their own community, their own family, their own household, or even in their own head. But they keep thinking that they have the right and the ability to change the world when they can't even be responsible for themselves. I think that, and so my call is a call to responsibility. It's like I was angry at the world throughout most of my 20s. I'm telling you, it's a frivolous and wasteful endeavor. It's like, I would be a millionaire if I had taken any of the wasted energy that I spent being angry all the time about the world, and like my little stint of nihilism and anarchy in my 20s, like every other foolish person under 25, entertaining those notions and those ideas. If I had spent that energy, thank God I still spent energy on my creativities and skills, but I could have been even more successful, and I'd be a multimillionaire today, and I would be massively successful. And I'm not saying that's a guarantee, but it's like, but yeah, more of you probably could. We probably have double the amount of people that are self-made millionaires if people would stop being angry, angsty 20-something-year-olds and would be productive about their life by focusing on bettering themselves, on bettering themselves. If someone said, or if someone took all the time they spent being an angry Reddit lord and just like took that same time and said, what if I spend that time like focusing on one problem or one aspect of my life that I can improve? Whether that's like, okay, let me spend that focusing on like repairing my personal relationships. Let me spend that energy on my fitness or my diet or my health. Or let me spend that time picking up something that helps give me peace. Like if I need to fix my mental health, like maybe I'll take up gardening or woodworking or meditation or painting model kits. Like if someone spent the energy trying to better themselves that they spend being angry at the world or a subgroup or a political party, the world would become a better place within generations very, very quickly.
When I feel like my world is falling apart, when I feel like my world is falling apart, or like I am unable to, like, I don't have a grasp on what it is that I'm doing, I I clean and I
Yeah.
organize. So I will clean my desk, or I will clean my bathroom. I will organize. I will do some decluttering in my closet. Um, anything that is within like the closest proximity that is physical. It's a tangible thing that I can see change and go from A to B.
Yeah.
And that level of control centers me. It brings me
Yes.
back to reality where I can see that I have some level of control of my life, and that amplifies and that
You're seeing
expands into other areas of my life.
you're seeing a physical representation of your ability to change something.
Yeah.
You're seeing a physical representation, a manifestation of your own power.
Mhm.
Like that's why, again, I think things like gardening,
Yeah.
crafting, gardening,
For me, it's
cooking,
cooking. Mhm.
cleaning. Like I like whenever, like again, like when I'm down there and it's like I'm doing stuff with the basement. There's a I mentally I get to see, oh, before and after I started doing something. I
Yeah.
get to see an outcome. I get to see like, oh, well, there's that. When
Yeah.
I upload a video to YouTube, I get to see, oh, the numbers went up. You know,
And
I get to see,
these are things that also remain. So it's like, for example, when I decorate a corner of my living space, right?
yeah,
When I take the time to organize something and create a system for that area, right? Like my desk drawer. These are things that will remain in place. And so I took the time to do it once, and it will continue to benefit me over a long period of time.
right,
Right. Yep.
exactly. So I feel like those things do matter, and those things give you some more mental wherewithal. Um, and I feel like, yeah, starting the ball with some easy attainable goals. I mean, like these small things do matter, and they do center you, and they ground your mental health in a realistic way, um, in terms of change. And like I said, even the things I was saying, it's like you can fight like all these big intangible invisible things all you want, and you could think you're fighting it, and you won't ever really in your lifetime see anything to show for it in most cases. But if you do something at a smaller level, at a local level and everything like that, if you do something very simple like put together a lending library for the kids in your neighborhood and a community, where it's like, hey, give a book, take a book,
Mhm.
you'll see the results of that, and you'll see the youngsters that are coming, and you'll see the older folks that are coming and they're doing that, and you'll feel like you're a part of something, and it'll be meaningful, and people will be like, oh wow, this is such a good idea, and you'll see some acknowledgement for doing things like that. If you do local community cleanups and everything like that, you'll see more people caring about the area, and like you'll see a cleaner, like if you just go and if you're the one who just cleans up the neighborhood a little bit and everything like that, you'll get to enjoy a nicer like neighborhood. If you fix the garden up, every time you come up to your house, you'll see those flowers coming into bloom in the spring and in the summer, and you'll be like, oh wow. And you'll see people walk by and stop and admire your handiwork, and you'll feel some kind of way about that. You like,
Mhm.
and that'll be the thing. If you do indoor container gardening, you'll see those empty, pots of dirt start to have little green buds, and then all of a sudden you'll have plants, and you'll be, I did that, and it'll matter, it'll be meaningful. And
And if you can share it with other people, it's even more meaningful.
yeah,
So our friend Jay started doing this. It's been like what, a year now, or a year and a
yeah,
half, I guess.
yep.
Where he started off by doing little plants. I think he's got like 20 or 30 plants.
I've
He's
been
got
en-
like a full
I've
on
been
farm.
encouraging him to do container gardening since he moved to Atlanta, because like my family does container gardening, like,
He
so
has like a full on farm in his
yeah.
apartment
Hmm.
in the middle of Atlanta. And he will share photos with us
In our
of
message group, yeah.
like just seeds, and then like he'll show us the little seedlings and then the little plant coming out and the leaves, and like, you know, stuff that he'll make with it, right? Like he has like tea leaves.
Yep.
And that's just stuff like, because I don't grow a lot of stuff. Like I just have like house plants. I have decorative plants. So I don't have anything that's, why, I mean, like I
Edible
could
or
eat it, but it's
doesn't do
not,
anything.
yeah, it doesn't do much. So it does actually bring me joy to see the plants growing, because it's exciting. It's exciting to see something go from dirt to the table.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, I feel like those things. And then people go, oh, what about this? What about like workers' rights? What about this? It's like I would ask people what rights they don't think they have in America at this point and everything like that, because if you are alive and well in America today and everything like that, you have more rights than my grandparents probably had when they came to this country. So, I mean,
Facts.
I'm just gonna put it out there. I'm just gonna put it out there. It's like, how about a little gratitude?
Truth.
How about a little gratitude? I don't know what people think they don't have right now. You're like right now, you work at the Apple Store retail, you make $20 an hour. When I was coming up, I was working in retail. I was making $6.50 an hour. When I was coming up, like someone making $20 an hour was crushing it. That was like, oh wow, you had to be like a big wig. You had to be a baller. You work as a retail employee as a kid at the Apple Store, you're making more than entry level people who go into the United States military. It's like, but you think you need a union. Okay. For what? You are a Apple retail employee making $20 an hour. It's not a position that requires a college degree. What oppression, what rights don't you have? Like, explain it to me. What, you think you just should get more because the company is like so damn profitable? It's like that's not how this works. Like that's not how it works. Like it makes like I do not know what version of the world people are living in. I mean, am I really just that old? I mean, I'll be 38 19 days from now. I'll be 38. Am I just
You're getting old,
just
man.
like a just mumra out here, like
You're a geezer.
like
You're a geezer, man.
yeah, like I mean, am I just Monty Burns out here? It's like there's like there are places where people actually suffer real oppression. There are places where people don't have rights. Like this is like there are people who experience actual exploitation. There are people who actually don't have power and don't have choices and don't have options. And a lot of them come to this country and beat the people who are complaining.
Truth. Yep, Will. Roberto is like a grown-up.
Yeah, and people go people talk about, oh, you don't know. And I worked back in my day. I guarantee you, I worked harder than all these people who say that they're this, they're that. It's like I worked harder than all these people. And like I'm not saying, oh, they should have to go through what I went through. It's like they never will. Just even by 5 years ago, they were still doing much better than what I came up with. It's like by many margins, by many measures, like it's not even close. Oh, you never worked backbooking, yes, I did. Yeah, yes, I did. When I was working at KB Toys, I was assistant manager, and sometimes like my guys wouldn't show up, and I'd have to literally unload an entire truck of freight by myself. When I was at the bookstore, when I worked at Walden's, because I was the only guy for a long time working at the store and everything like that, despite being literally smaller than most of the women working there. I had to unload most of the heavy boxes. I had to take out the stuff to the dumpster and everything like that. It's funny how like I was literally in the great age of equality. I was literally the smallest bodied person there, by like body size and weight class, and I was made to do all the heavy lifting. And it's a bookstore. It was not light work, like at all. And I was also the youngest. I was also the youngest employee there. I was the youngest. I was the smallest, but I was the guy. So I was having to do all the heavy lifting. So that's hilarious, right? Like, no,
Yeah.
it's this funny thing. It's this weird time to live in now. It's this weird time to live in now where it's very hard for me to understand sometimes. There are real things to complain about, and there's some people who are complaining about some very, very real things. I just feel like a lot of what we hear, the loudest people have the least to complain about. They have so many options. They have so much opportunity. And it's the only difference. And the only thing is all they'd have to do is actually work on themselves. I think that's a good place to bookmark it.
Word.
When Audrey comes back,
when Audrey comes back, I'm going to be talking about our next president.
Well, he's not our next president, but he's probably our next.
Wait, no spoilers.
I thought we were going to tease it.
Yeah, well, yeah. That's why I'm teasing it. I'm teasing it with that. I want to hype it up.
2032, not our next president, like our next,
right.
next,
our next president.
Yeah, next.
Yeah, you're right. Math.
Yeah, no. It's like, I don't know, for 20, who should I vote for 2024? I'm actually considering voting like
for yourself.
Oh, I could write in myself. I could write in Lucifer Morningstar. It's like, it's like he has a great platform. Like,
hey, you know what? This is America.
It's like, it's like, maybe I just vote for the devil. Like, maybe
do what's right for you, man.
Well, no, it might be what's best for the country at this point. At this point, it might be what's best for the country. Lucifer 2024, like maybe that's the way. Guys,
you're just gonna have to tune in. You're gonna have to tune in next week to find out what we're talking about. So subscribe and turn on those notifications for the love of God.
Anyway, this has been another exciting episode of the No Assembly Required podcast. We will catch you next week, everybody. Please like, subscribe, and review. This has been your duo signing off. We'll catch you next week. Nop.